How are you guys doing? Today is Monday, April 26th, 2021, out here in this quarantine. I'm James Sims, and for this episode of The Elite, I'm going to review the Elite matchups and performances from yesterday, Sunday, April 25th. And of course, I'm going to preview everything that's going on today as we navigate through the world of sports one day at a time. To get started in the NBA, looking at yesterday's primetime matchups, of course, starting this one in Charlotte, the Charlotte Hornets would host the Boston Celtics. And in this matchup, the Charlotte Hornets would end up beating the Boston Celtics 125-104 in primetime. They would outscore the Celtics by 10 in the first and 9 in the fourth. For the Boston Celtics in this matchup, their two leading scorers would finish with 20 on the night. Their all-star shooting guard, Jaylen Brown, would finish with 20 points, 8 rebounds, 2 assists, and 2 steals in 35 minutes as he shot 8 for 22 from the field, 2 for 7 from 3, and a perfect 2 for 2 from the foul line. Their elite starting point guard, Kemba Walker, would finish with 20 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, and 2 steals in 29 minutes as he shot 7 for 17 from the field, 3 for 9 from 3, and 3 for 5 from the foul line. And their elite starting small forward, Jason Tatum, would finish with 19 points, 11 rebounds, 2 assists alongside 5 turnovers in 32 minutes as he shot 6 for 16 from the field, 1 for 5 from 3, and 6 for 7 from the foul line. For the Charlotte Hornets last night, their leading scorer would be their starting point guard, Devontae Graham out of Kansas, who finished with 24 points and 9 assists in 32 minutes as he shot 7 for 14 from the field, 6 for 11 from 3, and a perfect 4 for 4 from the line. Their starting power forward out of Kentucky, PJ Washington, would finish with 22 points, 12 rebounds, and 5 assists in 39 minutes as he shot 8 for 12 from the field, 4 for 6 from 3, and 2 for 3 from the foul line. Their starting shooting guard, Terry Rozier, would finish with 21 points, 5 rebounds, and 11 assists in 33 minutes as he was 1 foul away from fouling out. He shot 8 for 18 from the field and 5 for 9 from 3. And then their starting small forward out of Michigan State, Miles Bridges, would finish with 20 points and 6 rebounds in 34 minutes as he shot 7 for 14 from the field, 4 for 8 from 3, and a perfect 2 for 2 from the foul line. With this win, the Charlotte Hornets are now 30-30. That is the 8th best record in the Eastern Conference with yesterday's afternoon primetime win. They have now won their last 2 games and 4 of their last 10 in the Eastern Conference playoff picture. They now sit a game and a half below the 6th place Boston Celtics and the 7th place Miami Heat. They also sit 1 game ahead of the 9th place Indiana Pacers, who are just on the outside looking in. And overall, they trail the Brooklyn Nets by 10.5 games in the Eastern Conference at the moment. With this loss, the Boston Celtics are now 32-29. They are tied with the Miami Heat for the 6th best record in the Eastern Conference, as they have now lost their last 2, but they've still won 7 of their last 10 games. In the Eastern Conference playoff picture, they sit 2 games behind the 4th place New York Knicks and the 5th place Atlanta Hawks, and they currently sit a game and a half ahead of the 8th place Charlotte Hornets in the playoff picture, as they currently trail the Brooklyn Nets by 7 games. They trailed the Brooklyn Nets by 9 games in the Eastern Conference following yesterday's loss. Jumping out to the next game that was on primetime, this one took place in Brooklyn as the Nets hosted the Phoenix Suns. In this matchup, the Nets would beat the Suns 128-119 after outscoring them by 11 in the second half after trailing by 2 at halftime. For the Phoenix Suns in this matchup, their leading scorer would be their elite starting shooting guard out of Kentucky, Devin Booker, who finished with 36 points and 3 rebounds in 37 minutes as he shot 12 for 24 from the field, 4 for 5 from 3, and 8 for 9 from the foul line. Their starting center, the former number 1 overall pick, DeAndre Ayton, would finish with 20 points, 13 rebounds, and 2 steals in 33 minutes as he shot 9 for 12 from the field and 2 for 4 from the foul line. Their small forward off the bench, Torrey Craig, would finish with 20 points and 14 rebounds in 32 minutes as he shot 6 for 9 from the field, 2 for 4 from 3, and a perfect 6 for 6 from the foul line. And then their elite starting point guard, Chris Paul, would finish with 14 points, 4 rebounds, 8 assists alongside 6 turnovers in 33 minutes as he shot 5 for 11 from the field, 2 for 5 from 3, and a perfect 2 for 2 from the foul line. For the Brooklyn Nets in this matchup, their leading scorer would be their elite starting point guard out of Duke, Kyrie Irving, who finished with 34 points, 6 rebounds, and 12 assists in 35 minutes, as he shot 10 for 19 from the field, 5 for 7 from 3, and a perfect 9 for 9 from the foul line. Off the bench for the Nets, their goated power forward, Kevin Durant, would finish with 33 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, and 2 steals in 28 minutes, as he shot 12 for 21 from the field, 2 for 3 from 3, and 7 for 8 from the foul line. Alongside him off the bench, their elite power forward, Blake Griffin, would finish with 16 points, 5 rebounds, and 4 assists in 27 minutes, as he shot 6 for 9 from the field, 2 for 3 from 3, and 2 for 3 from the foul line. With this win, the Brooklyn Nets are now 41-20. That is the best record in the Eastern Conference. They are the first team in the Eastern Conference at the 41 win mark in the less than 82 game season so far. With this win, they've now won their last 2 games and 6 of their last 10. In the playoff picture, they currently sit a game and a half ahead of the second place Philadelphia 76ers. In the playoff picture, they sit 10.5 games ahead of the 8th place Charlotte Hornets. For the picture, and then they currently sit 23 games ahead of the 15th place Detroit Pistons in the Eastern Conference, just to show how big their lead is. With this loss, the Phoenix Suns are now 42-18. That is the second best record in the Western Conference, as they have now lost their last 2 games, and they still won 6 of their last 10. In the Western Conference playoff picture, they currently sit 2 games behind the first place Utah Jazz. They currently have 1 less win and 1 less loss than the Clippers, so they're even with the Clippers in the playoff picture, as they both sit 3 games ahead of the 4th place Denver Nuggets at the moment, as the Phoenix Suns, right now, like I said, they're 2 games behind first place, just to give a sense of where they are. Looking to the next primetime game of the night, the final one, or the next one took place in Atlanta, as the Atlanta Hawks hosted the Milwaukee Bucks. In this matchup, the Atlanta Hawks would beat the Bucks 111-104. The difference would be the fourth quarter, where the Hawks went on to outscore the Bucks by 15 to pick up their 34th win of the season. For the Milwaukee Bucks, their leading scorer was their elite starting power forward, Giannis Antetokounmpo out of Greece, who finished with 31 points, 14 rebounds, and 4 assists, as well as 2 blocks in 35 minutes, as he shot 11 for 17 from the field, 1 for 3 from 3, and 8 for 10 from the foul line. And their starting small forward, Chris Middleton, would finish with 23 points and 6 rebounds in 34 minutes, as he shot 9 for 18 from the field, 3 for 5 from 3, and a perfect 2 for 2 from the line. For the Atlanta Hawks, their leading scorer would be their starting shooting guard, Bogdan Bogdanovic, who finished with 32 points and 3 steals in 37 minutes, as he shot 12 for 21 from the field, 6 for 11 from 3, and 2 for 3 from the foul line. Their starting shooting guard out of Maryland, Kevin Huerter, would finish with 20 points in 29 minutes, as he shot 9 for 14 from the field and 1 for 2 from the foul line. With this win, the Atlanta Hawks are now 34-27. They are tied with the New York Knicks for the 4th best record in the Eastern Conference, as the Hawks have now won their last 2 games and 7 of their last 10. In the Eastern Conference playoff picture, they sit 3.5 games behind the 3rd place Milwaukee Bucks, and they currently sit 2 games ahead of the 6th place Boston Celtics and the 7th place defending Eastern Conference champs Miami Heat, as they trail the Brooklyn Nets by 7 games in the Eastern Conference. With this loss, the Milwaukee Bucks are now 37-23. That is the 3rd best record in the Eastern Conference. With this loss, they've lost 5 of their last 10. In the Eastern Conference playoff picture, they now sit 2 games behind the Philadelphia 76ers, as well as 3.5 games ahead of the 4th place New York Knicks and 5th place Atlanta Hawks. As at the moment, they currently trail the 1st place Brooklyn Nets by 3.5 games in the Eastern Conference. And then last but not least, at least within the primetime games, jumping out to Oakland, the Golden State Warriors hosted the Sacramento Kings and were able to pull off a 117-113 win after outscoring the Kings by 6 points in the second half. For the Kings in this matchup, their leading scorer would be their starting shooting guard out of Oklahoma, Buddy Hield, who finished with 25 points and 6 rebounds, as well as 5 personal fouls in 37 minutes as he shot 9 for 13 from the field, 6 for 8 from 3, and he made his only free throw attempt of the night. Their rookie starting point guard, Tyrese Halliburton, would finish with 24 points and 8 assists in 37 minutes as he shot 10 for 20 from the field and 2 for 2 from the foul line. And then their starting small forward out of UNC, Harrison Barnes, would finish with 23 points and 7 rebounds in 40 minutes as he shot 8 for 16 from the field, 5 for 9 from 3, and a perfect 2 for 2 from the foul line. For the Warriors in this matchup, their leading scorer would be their goated starting point guard, Stephen Curry, who finished with 37 points, 7 rebounds, and 4 assists, alongside 7 turnovers in 38 minutes, as he shot 11 for 21 from the field, 7 for 14 from 3, and 8 for 11 from the foul line on the night. With this win, the Golden State Warriors are now 31-30. That is the 10th best record in the Western Conference, as they have now won their last 2 games and 7 of their last 10. They currently sit 1 game behind the 8th place Memphis Grizzlies outside of the Western Conference playoff picture, and they currently trail the first place Utah Jazz by 13.5 games in the Western Conference. With this loss, the Sacramento Kings are now 24-36. That is the 4th worst record in the Western Conference, as they have now lost 8 of their last 10 games. They currently sit 7.5 games behind the 8th place Memphis Grizzlies outside of the Western Conference playoff picture, and they currently trail the Utah Jazz by 20 total games in the Western Conference as a whole. Looking at the games that weren't on prime time, jumping out to Portland, the Portland Trailblazers hosted the Memphis Grizzlies, and the Grizzlies were able to beat the Trailblazers 120-113. The difference being the first quarter where they outscored Portland by 11. For the Trailblazers in this matchup, their leading scorer would be their starting shooting guard, CJ McCollum, out of Mercer. He would finish with 27 points in 27 points in 38 minutes as he shot 10 for 21 from the field and a perfect 3 for 3 from the foul line. Alongside him in the starting lineup, their elite starting point guard, Damian Lillard, would finish with 23 points, 6 rebounds, and 5 assists in 37 minutes as he shot 8 for 27 from the field, 4 for 10 from 3, and a perfect 3 for 3 from the foul line. For the Memphis Grizzlies, their leading scorer would be their elite starting point guard, Ja Morant, who finished with 28 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists, and 2 steals in 30 minutes as he shot 8 for 15 from the field, 3 for 4 from 3, and 9 for 12 from the foul line. And their starting center, Jonas Valanciunas, would finish with 21 points, 10 rebounds, and a couple of steals in 30 minutes as he shot 9 for 17 from the field and 3 for 4 from 3. With this win, the Memphis Grizzlies are now 31-28. That is the 8th best record in the Western Conference, as they have now won their last 2 games and 5 of their last 10. In the Western Conference playoff picture, they now trail the 7th place Portland Trailblazers by half a game, and they sit a full game ahead of the 9th place San Antonio Spurs and 10th place Golden State Warriors, who are just on the outside looking in. Overall, they currently trail the first place Utah Jazz by 12.5 games in the conference. Just to give a sense of where they are. With this loss, the Portland Trailblazers are now 32-28. That is the 7th best record in the Western Conference, as they have now lost their last 5 games. They've lost 8 of their last 10. They currently are holding on to the 2nd worst losing streak in the entire Western Conference. In the playoff picture, they currently sit a game and a half behind the 6th place Dallas Mavericks, and they currently sit a half a game ahead of the 8th place Memphis Grizzlies, who are just barely in the playoff picture, as they currently trail the first place Utah Jazz by 12 total games in the Western Conference. Jumping out to Washington, D.C., the Wizards hosted the Cleveland Cavaliers and would pull up a 119-110 win after outscoring the Cavaliers by 15 points in the 4th quarter, after coming into the 4th quarter trailing by 6. For the Cavaliers in this matchup, their leading scorer would be their starting point guard, Darius Garland, who finished with 28 points and 9 assists, as well as 6 turnovers in 40 minutes, as he shot 9 for 20 from the field, 4 for 8 from 3, and a perfect 6 for 6 from the foul line. And then their starting center, Jarrett Allen, out of Texas, would finish with 27 points, 12 rebounds, 2 steals, and 3 blocks in 34 minutes, as he shot 10 for 12 from the field and 7 for 9 from the foul line. For the Washington Wizards, their leading scorer would be their elite starting shooting guard, Bradley Beal, who finished with 33 points, 6 rebounds, and 3 assists. He did it in 39 minutes as he shot 13 for 24 from the field, 2 for 4 from 3, and 5 for 6 from the foul line. And then their elite starting point guard out of UCLA, Russell Westbrook, would finish with 14 points, 5 rebounds, 11 assists, and a couple of steals in 36 minutes as he shot 5 for 13 from the field and 4 for 7 from the foul line. With this win, the Washington Wizards are now 27-33. That is the 10th best record in the Eastern Conference, as they have now won their last 8 games. That is the second best win streak in the Eastern Conference. They have now won 9 of their last 10 games. They currently sit 3 games behind the 8th place Charlotte Hornets outside of the Eastern Conference playoff picture, and they currently trail the first place Brooklyn Nets by 13.5 games total. And with this loss, the Cleveland Cavaliers are now 21-39. That is the 3rd worst record in the Eastern Conference, as they have now lost their last 2 games and 7 of their last 10. They currently trail the 8th place Charlotte Hornets by 9 games outside of the Eastern Conference playoff picture, and they currently trail the first place Brooklyn Nets by 19.5 games in the entire conference. Last but not least, jumping out to Orlando, the Orlando Magic hosted the Indiana Pacers, as the Pacers were able to beat the Magic 131-112. They won this game by 19. The difference would be the third quarter, where they outscored the Magic by 21. They outscored them 41-20. But nonetheless, in this matchup for Orlando, their leading scorer would be their starting shooting guard out of Florida State, Dwayne Bacon, who finished with 20 points and 5 rebounds as well as 2 steals in 32 minutes, as he shot 6 for 15 from the field and 7 for 8 from the foul line. For the Indiana Pacers, their leading scorer would be their starting point guard, Malcolm Brogdon, who finished with 24 points, 8 rebounds, and 9 assists in 30 minutes, shooting 10 for 17 from the field, 3 for 7 from 3, and a perfect 1 for 1 from the foul line. Their starting point guard, Edmund Sumner, would finish with 21 points and 7 rebounds on his own. He did all of this in 37 minutes as he shot 7 for 13 from the field and 7 for 8 from the foul line. And then off the bench, their small forward, Justin Holiday, would finish with 20 points and 7 rebounds in 28 minutes as he shot 7 for 11 from the field and 6 for 8 from 3 on the night. With this win, the Indiana Pacers are now 29-31. That is the 9th best record in the Eastern Conference, as they have now won their last 3 games and 6 of their last 10. They currently sit 1 game behind the 8th place Charlotte Hornets outside of the Eastern Conference playoff picture, as they trail the Brooklyn Nets by 11.5 games in the conference total. With this loss, the Orlando Magic are now 18-42. That is the 2nd worst record in the Eastern Conference, as they have now lost their last 5 games and 9 of their last 10. At the moment, they sit 12 games behind the 8th place Charlotte Hornets outside of the Eastern Conference playoff picture, and they currently trail the first place Brooklyn Nets by 22.5 games in the Eastern Conference. With that said, that is what the NBA is looking like following yesterday's games, looking how they're going to enter this upcoming week, this Monday's matchup, starting with the prime time at 7:30. The New York Knicks are going to host the Phoenix Suns. The New York Knicks are currently holding on to the 4th best record in the East, and the Suns holding on to the 2nd best record in the West. This will be a good matchup on NBA TV. And then following it up at 10 o'clock, the Sacramento Kings, who are currently holding on to the 4th worst record in the Western Conference, are going to host the Dallas Mavericks, the host of the 6th best record in the Western Conference, and that game will be on NBA TV. Outside of the primetime matchups at 7 o'clock, the Detroit Pistons will host the Atlanta Hawks, the Orlando Magic will host the defending champs Los Angeles Lakers, the Philadelphia 76ers are going to host the Oklahoma City Thunder, and the Washington Wizards will host the San Antonio Spurs. At 7:30, the Toronto Raptors are going to host the Cleveland Cavaliers in Tampa. At 8 o'clock, the reigning Eastern Conference champs, the Miami Heat, are going to host the Chicago Bulls. The current holders of the worst record in the NBA, the Minnesota Timberwolves, are going to host the Utah Jazz, or I guess the holders of the 2nd worst record in the NBA. At the same time, the New Orleans Pelicans are going to host the Los Angeles Clippers. And then last but not least, at 9 o'clock, the Denver Nuggets will host the Memphis Grizzlies. And that's what the NBA is looking like as we lead into today's Monday matchups. Staying within the arena, but shifting the context to the ice. Jumping out to see what's going on in the NHL, as of course the NHL season is dwindling down to an end. And of course, every team has to play within their own division. Looking at the 3 games that took place in the East Division, starting off in Pittsburgh, the Pittsburgh Penguins would beat the Bruins 1-0, with the only goal being scored in the third period from Guentzel, the left winger for Pittsburgh. As the Penguins picked up this win, that's their 32nd win of the season. With this win, the Penguins now sit on top of the East Division as they sit 1 point ahead of the second place Washington Capitals, as the Penguins are currently on a 4-game winning streak at the moment. Jumping out to New York, the Rangers hosted the Buffalo Sabres and were able to pull off a 6-3 win, led by the Rangers center Zibanejad, who with yet another hat trick on the season. With their 25th win of the season, the Rangers now hold the 5th best record in the East Division, as they now trail the Penguins by 11 points. And then jumping out to Philadelphia, the Flyers hosted the New Jersey Devils and were able to pull off a 4-3 shutout win to pick up their 22nd win of the season. With this win, the Flyers now hold the 6th best record in the East Division, as they now trail the Penguins by 16 points in the table. And then last but not least, jumping out to Tampa Bay for the Central matchup, they were able to beat the Blue Jackets 4-3 as they scored a goal in every single period, including overtime, to pick up their 32nd win. With this win, the Lightning now hold the 3rd best record in the Central Division, as they now sit 2 points behind the first place Carolina Hurricanes. So, of course, big win for them. And then looking forward to what's going on today, as we are easing into a new week of hockey. Starting at 7:30, the Dallas Stars are going to host the Carolina Hurricanes. Hurricanes, one of the top teams in the Central Division. And then at 10 o'clock, it'll be an LA matchup between the Kings and the Ducks in the Staples Center. As the Kings host them, that game will be on ESPN+. Outside of the primetime games, the Calgary Flames will host the Montreal Canadiens at 6:30. The Ottawa Senators will host the Vancouver Canucks at 7 o'clock, and the St. Louis Blues will host the Colorado Avalanche at the same time. At 8 o'clock, the Nashville Predators are going to host the Florida Panthers. At 9 o'clock, the Winnipeg Jets are going to host the Edmonton Oilers. And at 10:30, the San Jose Sharks are going to host the Arizona Coyotes. That's what the NHL is looking like as we are making our way into today's matchups. Really quickly checking out what's going on with the MLB following yesterday's exhibitions, going through them one by one as we are entering the 4th calendar week of the baseball season. Starting off in Baltimore, the Baltimore Orioles were able to beat the Oakland Athletics 8-1 after scoring 8 runs in the 8th inning. For the Oakland Athletics, the start and the loss would end up going to Jesus Luzardo. Jesus Luzardo would allow 3 earned runs in 6.2 innings pitched as he struck out 8 batters on the day. With this loss, Jesus Luzardo is 1-2 on the season. In their batting lineup, no one on the team would finish with more than 1 hit on the day, as their elite third baseman Matt Chapman will go 0-2 with 2 walks on the day. The only RBI went to Ramon Laureano, who hit his 3rd home run of the season. For the Orioles in this matchup, the win would go to their starting pitcher, John Means, who allowed 1 earned run in 6.1 innings pitched as he struck out 6 batters on the day. With this win, John Means is now 2-0 as a starting pitcher. Their center fielder, Cedric Mullins, would go 3 for 5 on the day. And then their left fielder, Austin Hayes, would have a good day for himself, as Hayes went 2 for 3 with 3 RBIs and 3 runs, as Austin Hayes would hit his first 2 home runs of the season yesterday. With this win, the Baltimore Orioles are now 9-12. They are tied with the New York Yankees for the worst record in the American League East, as they currently trail the Boston Red Sox by 4 games in the division. With this loss, the Oakland Athletics are now 14-8, as that snapped their 13-game winning streak. They still hold the best record in the American League West, as they now sit a game ahead of the Seattle Mariners. Jumping out to Detroit, the Detroit Tigers hosted the Kansas City Royals, and the Royals were able to blank the Tigers 4-0, giving Danny Duffy his 3rd win of the season. For Detroit, the start would go to Michael Fulmer, who allowed no earned runs and 1 hit in 3 innings pitched as he struck out 2. He wouldn't get the decision. The decision would go to their first relief pitcher, Tariq Skubal. Skubal would allow 2 earned runs in the 2.2 innings that he pitched, striking out 3. With this loss, Skubal is 0-3 as a relief pitcher this season. In their batting lineup, their third baseman, Jeimer Candelario, would be the only player with more than 1 hit, as he went 2 for 3 and he also walked. He was on base a good amount, but he wasn't able to come home. For the Kansas City Royals, the win would go to their starting pitcher, Danny Duffy. Danny Duffy would allow no earned runs and 4 hits in 5 innings pitched as he struck out 8 batters on the day. With this win, Danny Duffy is now 3-1 as a starting pitcher this season. And their batting lineup, their elite second baseman, Whit Merrifield, would end up going 2 for 5 with an RBI and a run. Their first baseman, Carlos Santana, would go 1 for 4 with 2 RBIs on the day. The left fielder, Andrew Benintendi, would go 2 and 4. And their center fielder, Michael Taylor, would go 2 for 4 with a run for himself. With this win, the Kansas City Royals are now 13-7. That is the best record in the American League Central, as they currently sit a game and a half ahead of the second-place Chicago White Sox. With this loss, the Detroit Tigers are now 7-15. That is the worst record in the American League Central, as they now trail the first-place Kansas City Royals by 7 games in the division. Jumping out to New York, the New York Mets hosted the Washington Nationals and were able to pull off a 4-0 win at home, holding the Nationals completely scoreless, holding them only to 5 hits all game. The start and the loss for the Nats would go to their starting pitcher, Patrick Corbin. Corbin would allow 4 earned runs in 4 innings pitched as he struck out 3 batters on the day, as the relief pitchers held the Mets scoreless after. With this loss, Patrick Corbin is now 0-3 as a starting pitcher this season. In their batting lineup, their right fielder, who in this instance was Yadiel Hernandez, would go 2 for 2 with 2 walks on the day. And then for the New York Mets in this matchup, the win would go to their starting pitcher, Taijuan Walker, who would allow no earned runs and 3 hits in 7 innings pitched as he struck out 4. With this win, Taijuan Walker is now 1-1 as a starting pitcher, as Edwin Diaz would close out the game. In their batting lineup, their elite first baseman, Pete Alonso, would go 1 for 2 with an RBI and 2 runs, also 2 walks, as Pete Alonso hit his 5th home run of the season last night. Their lead shortstop, Francisco Lindor, would go 1 for 4. And then their third baseman, J.D. Davis, would go 3 for 4 with 2 RBIs and 2 runs, as he hit his 2nd home run of the season for New York. With this win, the Mets are now 9-8. That is the best record in the National League East, as they now sit 1 game ahead of the second-place Philadelphia Phillies. With this loss, the Nationals are now 8-11. That is the worst record in the National League East, as they now trail the New York Mets by 2 games in the division. Jumping out to Boston, the Boston Red Sox hosted the Seattle Mariners and were able to pull off a 5-3 win at home after scoring all 5 of their runs in the first 2 innings. For the Seattle Mariners, the loss would go to their starting pitcher, Nick Margevicius, who would allow 4 runs in .1 innings pitched as he only logged 1 out and 1 strikeout. With this loss, Margevicius is 0-2 as a starting pitcher for Seattle, and no one in their batting lineup was able to get more than 1 hit on the day. For the Boston Red Sox in this matchup, the start and the win would go to Eduardo Rodriguez. Rodriguez would allow 3 earned runs in 7 innings pitched as he struck out 8 batters on the day. With this win, Rodriguez is 4-0, and then the save would end up going to their closer, Matt Barnes. Matt Barnes would strike out 2 in the last inning to pick up his 4th of the season. In their batting lineup, their elite left fielder, J.D. Martinez, would go 2 for 3 as he walked and finished with a run on the day. He would be the only player in this game that finished with more than 1 hit. With this win, the Boston Red Sox are 14-9. That is the best record in the American League East, as they sit 2.5 games ahead of the second-place Tampa Bay Rays. And with this loss, the Seattle Mariners are now 13-9. That is the second-best record in the American League West, as they now trail the first-place Oakland Athletics by a game. Jumping out to Tampa Bay, the Rays hosted the Toronto Blue Jays, and the Blue Jays were able to beat the Rays 1-0 with their only run coming in the 5th inning in the form of a RBI single from Santiago Espinal. For the Tampa Bay Rays in this matchup, the start would end up going to Luis Patino. Patino would allow no earned runs and strike out 3 in the 2.2 innings that he pitched. He wouldn't get the decision, but the loss would go to their first relief pitcher, Josh Fleming. Josh Fleming would allow 1 earned run in 4.1 innings pitched as he struck out 3. With this loss, Fleming is 1-2 as a relief pitcher, and the only player for the Rays that logged more than 1 hit was their center fielder, Kevin Kiermaier, who went 2 for 4. Their elite left fielder, Randy Arozarena, will go 0 for 3 as he walked once and struck out 3 times. For the Toronto Blue Jays, the start will go to their elite starting pitcher, Hyunjin Ryu. Ryu would allow no earned runs in 3.2 innings pitched as he struck out 5 batters on the day. The win will go to their first relief pitcher, who in this game would be Tim Maiza. Maiza would allow no earned runs in the .1 inning that he pitched. With this win, he's now 1-0 as a relief pitcher. And then the save will go to Rafael Dolis, his second of the season. In their batting lineup, their elite first baseman, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., would go 0 for 3 with a walk and a strikeout. Their left fielder, their left fielder Lourdes Gurriel Jr. would go 2 for 4 on the day, and then their third baseman Santiago Espinal would go 2 for 4 with the only RBI of the day. With this win, the Toronto Blue Jays are now 10-11. That is the third best record in the American League East, as they now trail the Boston Red Sox by 3 games in the division. With this loss, the Tampa Bay Rays are now 11-11. That is the second best record in the American League East, as they now trail the Red Sox by 2.5 games. Jumping out to Cleveland, the Cleveland Indians hosted the New York Yankees and were able to pull off a 7-3 win, scoring all 7 of their runs in the 4th through 6th innings. For the Yankees in this matchup, the start and the loss would go through Jameson Taillon. Taillon would allow 4 earned runs in 4 innings pitched as he struck out 6 batters on the day. With this loss, Taillon is now 0-2 as a starting pitcher for the Yankees. In their batting lineup, their elite designated hitter, Giancarlo Stanton, will go 1 for 5. Their elite right fielder, Aaron Judge, whose birthday is actually today, he would go 1 for 5 yesterday. Their elite shortstop, Gleyber Torres, will go 1 for 3 with a walk and a run on the day. And then for the Cleveland Indians, the start would go to Tristan McKenzie. Tristan McKenzie would allow 3 earned runs in the 4 innings that he pitches. He struck out 5. The win would go to their first relief pitcher, Sam Hentges, as he would allow no earned runs in the 1.2 innings that he pitched. And with his 1 strikeout, he picked up his very first win of the season. And James Karinchak would strike out all 3 of the batters that he would face in relief. And then in their lineup, their second baseman, Cesar Hernandez, would go 2 for 4 with a run. Their elite third baseman, Jose Ramirez, would go 1 for 3 with an RBI and a run. And then their designated hitter, Franmil Reyes, would go 3 for 4 with 3 RBIs and 2 runs, as Reyes hit his 5th home run of the season yesterday. With this win, the Cleveland Indians are now 9-11. That is the third best record in the American League Central, as they now sit 4 games behind the first place Kansas City Royals. With this loss, the New York Yankees are now 9-12. They are tied with the Baltimore Orioles for the worst record in the American League East, as they trail the Boston Red Sox by 4 games in the division. Jumping out to Atlanta, the Atlanta Braves hosted the Arizona Diamondbacks for a 2-game doubleheader, and the Diamondbacks were able to blank the Braves for both. In the first game, they would beat the Braves 5-0, as Zach Gallen picked up his first win of the season. In their first matchup, Bryce Wilson would he would get the start and the loss. He would allow 3 earned runs in 4 innings pitched as he struck out 4 batters. With this loss, Bryce Wilson is now 1-1 on the season as a starting pitcher for Atlanta. In the first game, their elite right fielder, Ronald Acuna Jr., would go 0 for 1 as he walked once. Their elite first baseman, Freddie Freeman, will go 1 for 3 on the day. Their elite left fielder, Marcell Ozuna, will go 0 for 3 with 2 strikeouts. And then their elite second baseman, Ozzie Albies, would go 0 for 3 on the day. For the Arizona Diamondbacks, the only pitcher that pitched in this game would be their starting pitcher, Gallen. Gallen would allow no earned runs and only 1 hit in 7 innings pitched as he struck out 6 batters on the day. Technically, he would not be given the full game, but still just a great overall game from him. With this win, he is now 1-0 as a starting pitcher this season. And then in their batting lineup, their right fielder, Cole Calhoun, would go 2 for 3 with an RBI and 2 runs as Calhoun hit his 2nd home run of the season. And then their shortstop, Nick Ahmed, would go 2 for 3 on the day. With this, they picked up their 10th win of the season. And then in the second game, they would beat Atlanta 7-0 as Bumgarner would pick up this win. For the Atlanta Braves, the start and the loss would go to Drew Smyly, as Smyly would allow 5 earned runs in 4 innings pitched as he struck out 4 batters on the day. With this loss, Drew Smyly is now 0-1 as a starting pitcher for Atlanta. And the entire Atlanta roster was no-hit. And Madison Bumgarner would not get credit for a no-hitter because it was a 7-inning game. But nonetheless, he had the best performance of the night. He would allow no earned runs and no hits in 7 innings pitches. He struck out 7 batters on the day, and he didn't even walk anybody. He would go. It wouldn't go down as a perfect game in that sense. But Still incredible performance, and with this win, Madison Bumgarner is now 2-2 on the season. And then in their batting lineup, their center fielder, Pavin Smith, would go 3-for-4 with an RBI and a run as he hit his second home run of the season. Their second baseman, Eduardo Escobar, would go 2-for-4 with an RBI and a run as he hit his seventh home run of the season. And then their right fielder, Josh Rojas, would go 2-for-3 with 2 RBIs for himself. With both of these wins, the Arizona Diamondbacks are now 11-11, which is the 4th best record in the National League West, as they now trail the Los Angeles Dodgers by 4 games in the division. With both of their losses yesterday, the Atlanta Braves are now 9-12. They are tied with the Miami Marlins for the 3rd best record in the National League East, as they now trail the New York Mets by 2 games in the division. Jumping out to Houston, the Houston Astros hosted the Los Angeles Angels, and the Angels were able to beat the Astros 4-2 as they scored a run in the 8th and 9th inning to pull away with their 10th win of the season. For the Astros, Lance McCullers Jr. would get the start as he allowed 2 earned runs in 6 innings pitched as he struck out 5. McCullers would not get the decision. The loss would go in relief to Luis Garcia, who allowed 1 earned run in 1.2 innings pitched. With this loss, Garcia is 0-2 as a relief pitcher. In their batting lineup, their elite third baseman Alex Bregman would go 0-4 as he struck out once. No one on the team would log more than 1 hit on the day, but Yuli Gurriel would log both RBIs with a 2-run home run in the 7th inning. He went 1-4 with 2 RBIs and a run. For the Los Angeles Angels, Dylan Bundy will get the start as he allowed 2 earned runs in 6 innings pitched as he struck out 6 batters. But the win would go to Chris Rodriguez in relief, who would allow no earned runs in the 1 inning that he pitched. With this win, Chris Rodriguez is 1-0 as a relief pitcher for Los Angeles. In their batting lineup, their only player that finished with more than 1 hit on the day would be their third baseman. In this case, who was Jose Rojas, who will go 2-for-3 with a run on the day. With this win, the Los Angeles Angels are now 10-10. That is the 3rd best record in the division in the American League West, as they now trail the Oakland Athletics by 3 games. And with this loss, the Houston Astros are now 10-11. That is the 4th best record in the American League West, as they now sit 3.5 games behind the Oakland Athletics in the division. Jumping out to the Twin Cities, or in Minneapolis, the Minnesota Twins would host the Pittsburgh Pirates, and the Pirates would pull off a 6-2 win to pick up their 11th game of the season. For the Twins, the loss would go to their starting pitcher in this game, who was Matt Shoemaker. Matt Shoemaker would allow 2 earned runs in 5.1 innings pitched as he struck out 2 batters on the day. With this loss, Shoemaker is now 1-2 on the season. In their batting lineup, their second baseman, Luis Arias, will go 2-for-3 with a run on the day. He was the only player with more than 1 hit. Their elite designated hitter, Nelson Cruz, would go 1-for-4 with an RBI and a run as Cruz hit his 7th home run of the season. For the Pittsburgh Pirates, the start would go to Will Crow. Will Crow would allow 1 earned run in 4 innings pitched as he struck out 3 batters on the day. And the win would go to their first relief pitcher, Clay Holmes, who would allow no earned runs in 1.1 innings pitched, as he is now 1-0 on the season as a relief pitcher. Their second baseman, Adam Frazier, would go 3-for-5 with an RBI and a run. And then their center fielder, Brian Reynolds, would go 2-for-4 with 2 RBIs. Then their right fielder, Gregor Polanco, would end up going 3-for-4 with an RBI and 2 runs, as Gregory Polanco hit his 3rd home run of the season yesterday. With this win, the Pittsburgh Pirates are now 11-11. That is the 3rd best record in the National League Central, as they currently trail the first place Milwaukee Brewers by 2.5 games. And with this loss, the Minnesota Twins are now 7-13. That is the 4th best record in the American League Central, as they now trail the Kansas City Royals by 6 games in the division. Jumping out to the south side of Chicago, the Chicago White Sox hosted the Texas Rangers and were able to pull off an 8-4 win, scoring all 8 of their runs in the first 3 innings of the game. For the Texas Rangers, the start and the loss would go to Kohei Arihara, who would allow 5 earned runs in 2 innings pitched as he struck out nobody on the day. With this loss, Arihara is 2-2 as a starting pitcher on the season. Their shortstop, Isaiah Kiner Falefa, would go 3-for-5 with a run on the day. Their right fielder, Joey Gallo, will go 2 for 4 with a run, and then their second baseman, Nick Solak, will go 2 for 4 with an RBI. For the Chicago White Sox, the win will go to Michael Kopech, their starting pitcher, who allowed 1 earned run in 5 innings pitched as he struck out 10 on the day. In their batting lineup, their elite shortstop, Tim Anderson, will go 1 for 4 with an RBI and a run. Their elite first baseman, reigning American League MVP, Jose Abreu, will go 2 for 4 with 3 RBIs and a run as he hit his 5th home run of the season. Their catcher in this game, who would end up being Zach Collins, will go 3 for 3 with a walk and a run on the day. And then last but not least, their second baseman, Nick Madrigal, will go 2 for 4 with 2 RBIs and a run and 2 runs for himself. With this win, the White Sox are now 12-9. That is the second best record in the American League Central, as they now trail the Royals by a game and a half. With this loss, the Texas Rangers are now 9-13. That is the worst record in the American League West, as they now trail the Oakland Athletics by 5 games in the division. Staying within Chicago, the Chicago Cubs hosted the Milwaukee Brewers, and the Brewers were able to beat the Cubs 6-0, scoring 5 of their runs in the 9th inning. For the Cubs, the loss would go to their starting pitcher, Jake Arrieta, as Arrieta would only allow 1 earned run in 6 innings pitched, only allowing 2 hits, as he would strike out 8 batters on the day. With this loss, Arrieta is 3-2 as a starting pitcher this season. In the Cubs' lineup, their elite left fielder, Chris Bryant, would go 0 for 4 as he struck out twice. And then their elite shortstop, Javier Baez, would go 1 for 4 as no one on the Cubs finished with more than 1 hit on the day. For the Milwaukee Brewers, the win would go to Brandon Woodruff. Woodruff would allow no earned runs in 6 innings pitched, as he only allowed 2 hits. He walked his first 2 batters of the season, as he also struck out 8. With this win, Woodruff is now 2-0 as a starting pitcher for Milwaukee, and one of their relief pitchers was that played for them was Devin Williams, their elite relief pitcher, who was the reigning National League Rookie of the Year, as he would strike out 1 in the inning that he pitched. In their batting lineup, their second baseman, Colton Wong, would go 2 for 5 with an RBI and 2 runs on the day, as Wong would hit his 3rd double of the season. Their catcher, Omar Narvaez, would go 2 for 3 on the day, as he was the only other player that finished with more than 1 hit. With this win, the Milwaukee Brewers are now 13-8, holding on to the best record in the National League Central, as they sit 2 games ahead of the second-place St. Louis Cardinals. And with this loss, the Chicago Cubs are now 10-11. That is the 4th best record in the National League Central, as they now trail the Milwaukee Brewers by 3 games. Jumping out to St. Louis, the St. Louis Cardinals hosted the Cincinnati Reds, who were able to pull off a 5-2 win to give Jack Flaherty his 4th win of the season. For the Reds, the loss will go to their starting pitcher, Luis Castillo, who allowed 4 earned runs in 5 innings pitched. He struck out 3 on the day. With this loss, Luis Castillo is 1-2 as a starting pitcher for Cincinnati this season. Their left fielder, Adam Winkler, would go 2 for 4 with an RBI and a run as he hit his 4th home run of the season. And the only other player to finish with 2 hits would be their right fielder, Nick Castellanos, who went 2 for 4. Their elite shortstop, Eugenio Suarez, would go 0 for 4 as he struck out twice. For the St. Louis Cardinals, the win would go to their elite starting pitcher, Jack Flaherty, who would allow only 1 earned run in 3 hits and 7 innings pitched as he struck out 6 batters on the day. The save will go to Alex Reyes, his 5th of the season, as Reyes would strike out 1 in the last inning. Reyes picked up his 5th save. Flaherty is now 4-0 as a starter. In their batting lineup, their center fielder, Dylan Carlson, will go 3 for 4 with an RBI and a run, as he had a pretty big game for himself. Their elite first baseman, Paul Goldschmidt, will go 1 for 4 with 2 RBIs. Their elite third baseman, Nolan Arenado, will go 0 for 4 for himself. And then their left fielder, Tyler O'Neill, will go 2 for 3 with 2 RBIs and 2 runs, as he hit his 2nd and 3rd home run of the season for St. Louis. With this win, the Cardinals are now 11-10, holding the 2nd best record in the National League Central, as they currently trail the Milwaukee Brewers by 2 games in the division. With this loss, the Cincinnati Reds are now 9-12, holding the worst record in the National League Central, as they now trail the Milwaukee Brewers by 4 games in the division. Jumping out to Denver, the Colorado Rockies hosted the Philadelphia Phillies and were able to pull off a 12-2 win after scoring 10 runs in the middle 3 innings. For the Philadelphia Phillies in this matchup, the loss will go to their starting pitcher, Chase Anderson. Chase Anderson would allow 6 earned runs in 3.2 innings pitched as he struck out 2 batters on the day. And with this loss, he's now 0-2 as a starting pitcher for the Phillies. In their batting lineup, Their elite right fielder, Bryce Harper, would go 2 for 4 with 2 RBIs and 2 runs as he hit his 5th and 6th home run of the season yesterday. And then their second baseman in this game, who will be Nick Matone, would be the only other player with more than 1 hit as he went 2 for 3 on the day with a walk. For the Colorado Rockies, the win went to their starting pitcher, John Gray. Gray would allow 2 earned runs in 6 innings pitched as he struck out 6 batters on the day. With this win, John Gray is 3-1 on the season. In their batting lineup, their left fielder, Ryan Miltapia, would go 2 for 5 with 2 RBIs and a run. Their shortstop, Trevor Story, would go 2 for 4 with 4 RBIs and 2 runs as Trevor Story hit his 2nd home run of the season. Their first baseman, CJ Cron, would go 4 for 5 with 2 RBIs and 2 runs as he hit his 3rd home run of the season yesterday. Their third baseman, Josh Fuentes, would end up going 2 for 4 with an RBI and a run for himself. And then there's catcher Dom Nunez would go 2 for 4 with an RBI and 2 runs on the day. With this win, the Colorado Rockies are 8-13. That is the worst record in the National League West, as they now trail the defending champs Los Angeles Dodgers by 6.5 games in the division. With this loss, the Philadelphia Phillies are now 10-11. That is the second best record in the National League East, as they now trail the Mets by a game in the division. Jumping out to the Bay Area, the San Francisco Giants hosted the Miami Marlins and were able to pull off a 4-3 win, giving Webb his first win of the season. For the Miami Marlins, the start would go to their starting pitcher, Ross Detweiler. Detweiler would only pitch 1 inning as he struck out 1 batter. The loss would end up going to their first relief pitcher, Paul Campbell, who would pitch 3 innings and allow 3 earned runs, striking out 5. With this loss, Campbell is 0-1 in relief. In their batting lineup, their left fielder, Corey Dickerson, would end up going 2 for 5 or 2 for 3 as he walked once. He was the only player with more than 1 hit on the team. For the San Francisco Giants, their starting pitcher, Logan Webb, would end up allowing no earned runs in 7 innings pitched as he struck out 8 on the day. With this win, Logan Webb is now 1-1 as Rogers picked up his 2nd save of the season. The only player with more than 1 hit on the team would be their shortstop, who in this matchup was Mauricio Dubon, who would go 2 for 4 with an RBI and a run as Dubon had his 2nd double of the season yesterday. With this win, the San Francisco Giants are now 14-8. That is the 2nd best record in the National League West, as they now trail the defending champs Los Angeles Dodgers by a game in the division. With this loss, the Miami Marlins are now 9-12, tied with the Atlanta Braves for the 3rd best record in the National League East, as they both trail the New York Mets by 2 games in the division. Last but not least, jumping out to Dodger Stadium, the defending champs hosted the San Diego Padres, and after they were leading the Padres 7-1 going into the 7th inning, the Padres would tie it up at 7-7 in the 7th, 8th, and 9th inning to send it into extras, and then they would end up winning this game in the 11th inning thanks to an Eric Hosmer sacrifice fly to give them the win. For the Los Angeles Dodgers in this matchup, the start would go to Dustin May, who allowed 1 earned run in 6 innings pitched as he struck out 10 batters. This game was eventually fumbled in relief, as the loss would end up being tagged to Clevenger. Garrett Clevenger would strike out 1 batter and allow 1 run, as he is now 0-1 as a relief pitcher for the Dodgers. In their batting lineup, their elite center fielder, Mookie Betts, would go 1 for 7 with a run as he struck out twice. Their elite shortstop, Corey Seager, would go 2 for 7 as he had 2 runs on the day. And then their second baseman, Chris Taylor, would hit his 4th home run of the season as he went 2 for 5 with 3 RBIs and a run. And then their catcher, Austin Barnes, would go 2 for 5 with an RBI for himself. For the San Diego Padres, the start went to Joe Musgrove, who allowed 2 earned runs in 3 innings pitched as he struck out 4. The win would go to their relief pitcher, Tim Hill. Tim Hill would allow no earned runs in 1 inning pitch as he struck out 2. And the save would go to Mark Melanson, his 8th of the season. In their batting lineup, their elite shortstop, Fernando Tatis Jr., would go 2 for 4 with an RBI and 4 runs as he hit his 7th home run of the season. Their elite third baseman, Manny Machado, would go 2 for 6 with an RBI and a run for himself. Their first baseman, Eric Hosmer, will go 2 for 4 with 2 RBIs and a run with a walk as well. Their second baseman, Jake Cronenworth, will go 2 for 5 with a run. And then their catcher, who in this matchup was Victor Caratini, would go 2 for 4 with 2 RBIs and a run. With this win, the San Diego Padres are now 13-11. That is the third best record in the National League West, as they now trail the defending champs by 3 games in the division. And with this loss, the Dodgers are now 15-7. They are still holding on to the best record and the most wins in the National League, and in the majors. In the National League West, they currently sit a game ahead of the second place San Francisco Giants, just to show where they are sitting following yesterday's games. That is what the MLB is looking like following yesterday. Looking forward to today's matchups, as all these teams are starting their way into a brand new series. At 1:10, Spencer Turnbull and the Detroit Tigers are going to host Brad Keller and the Kansas City Royals. At 6:10, the first game that'll be on prime time will be on ESPN Plus, as Zach Plesac and the Cleveland Indians look to host Jose Barrios and the Minnesota Twins. At 7 o'clock, the Atlanta Braves will host the Chicago Cubs on ESPN, as the pitching matchup will be Charlie Morton versus Zach Davies. At 7:05, Matt Harvey and the Baltimore Orioles will host Davy Garcia and the New York Yankees. At 7:10, Rich Hill and the Tampa Bay Rays are going to host Sean Manaea and the Oakland Athletics. At 7:40, Corbin Burns and the Milwaukee Brewers are going to host Trevor Rogers and the Miami Marlins. At 7:45, Adam Wainwright and the St. Louis Cardinals are going to host Zach Wheeler and the Philadelphia Phillies. At 8:05, Jordan Lyles and the Texas Rangers are going to host Shohei Ohtani and the Los Angeles Angels. At 8:10, Jose Urquidy and the Houston Astros are going to host Justice Sheffield and the Seattle Mariners. At 9:45, Anthony Desclafini and the San Francisco Giants are going to host Austin Gomber and the Colorado Rockies. And last but not least, at 10 o'clock, Julio Urias and the defending champs Los Angeles Dodgers are going to host Tyler Mahle and the Cincinnati Reds. Just to get a sense of what the MLB is looking like for today. And then last but not least, taking a look at what's going on in the world of soccer, especially following the developments and following yesterday's matchups. Starting in England, starting with the Carabao Cup, Manchester City would beat Tottenham Hotspur 1-0 to win yet another trophy for Manchester City. A great win for them. Their goal will come from Laporte in the 82nd minute, the only goal all game. Looking on what's going on in the Premier League, Manchester United would draw with Leeds United 0-0. With this draw, they still hold the second best record in the Premier League, as they sit 10 points behind Manchester City with 5 games left to go in their season. They had a chance to, move closer, and they kind of really stumbled that chance. The Los Angeles Galaxy would end up beating the New York Red Bulls 3-2 off of a hat trick from Javier Chicharito Hernandez. In the Bundesliga, RB Leipzig, the second best team, was able to beat VfB Stuttgart 2-0, as they were able to hold out from Bayern. They were able to keep Bayern Munich from winning the Bundesliga this week, but they still sit 7 points below Bayern Munich with 3 games left in the table. Looking at what's going on in Italy, Fiorentina faced off against Juventus, and in this matchup, the score would actually be tied at 1, as with this, they would both draw. For Juventus, with this draw, they are now tied with AC Milan for the third best record, as they have played one more game than Milan, as they sit 3 points ahead of fifth place Napoli, as Napoli now has the opportunity to tie Juventus on points. Inter Milan was able to beat Hellas Verona 1-0, as their only goal came in the 76th minute. With this win, they now sit 11 points over Atalanta, as they are getting closer and closer to sealing their Serie A title. And looking down in La Liga, Villarreal would host Barcelona, as Barcelona would beat them 2-1. Both of their goals coming from their elite French forward, Antoine Griezmann. With their 2 wins, Barcelona is now they now are tied with Real Madrid for the second best record in La Liga, as they've played 1 less game than Atletico and Real. They are tied with Real in points, and they now have 2 less points than Atletico. Mathematically, with their next game, Barcelona very well can pass Atletico Madrid with a win. And that is because Atletico Madrid faced off against Bilbao yesterday, and they dropped points, as Athletic Bilbao would beat Atletico Madrid 2-1, but Atletico Madrid still sits on top of La Liga, 2 points ahead of Real Madrid and Barca. But Barcelona, like I said, that puts the pressure on Barcelona to win their next game. And then looking at what's going on in France, Lille would end up beating Olympique Lyon 3-2 as they hold on to the best record in France as they jump right back ahead of PSG by a point. With this loss, Lyon drops to fourth in Ligue 1 as they sit now 4 points behind third place AS Monaco. This was their chance. But that is currently what soccer is looking like following yesterday's matchups. And then looking into today, the only team with title aspirations that's really playing today will be AC Milan as they face off against Lazio at 2:45. They're pretty far out from winning. They're holding on to the third best record, but a win can put them back in the second place as they currently sit 2 points below Atalanta following Atalanta's win yesterday. But right now, that is what sports are looking like for today, Monday, April 26th, 2021. I want to thank everyone for listening to all 54 minutes of this piece. I hope all is well. And I will come back to you tomorrow on Tuesday, April 27th, once all of today's matchups are done. Once again, thanks for listening to my piece. I hope all is well, and peace out. I'll catch you tomorrow.